Hello, and welcome to the UMass Amherst Career Development and Professional Connections Hub presentation on career development for the University Without Walls students. We hope that through this brief presentation, it will provide you some basic information about career development as you continue your career past graduation. These are the learning outcomes that we hope you will achieve by the end of this presentation. First will be what career services can do for you, a brief discussion of resumes and cover letters, some networking basics, some LinkedIn basics, and we'll finish with some interview tips and tricks. So what can career services do for you? First off, we offer resume, cover letter, and LinkedIn profile review. There are two main ways of doing this. During normal business hours while campus is open and school is in session, we can do walk-in hours Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. with no appointment needed. The second option, which is available right now, is remote or email review, where you can send your documents to an advisor or our email that I will mention later for review, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. We can also do Zoom appointments through with your career advisor for resume, cover letter, CV, or LinkedIn review. Again, we can do that via Zoom or another virtual platform if you'd like. We also can do career exploration for skills assessments like the MBTI Focus 2. We can talk about interview skills. We can put you through a mock interview to help you prepare for future interviews or whatever types of resources you might need. There are also many online resources on our website that is seen that we will leave you the link at the end of this presentation. There are online assessments such as the Myers-Briggs, Focus 2, What Can I Do with This Major, Clifton Strengths Finder, and then there's also Big Interview, which will provide you an opportunity to not only see other people answer interview questions, get some tips on how to answer really tough interview questions, and also watch yourself to make sure that how you're presenting yourself is the best possible way. We highly recommend you do virtual recordings of your interviews, or interview practice, that is. All right, let's talk about resume basics. So first off, let's keep it brief. Generally speaking, we say 1 page front only. If you have extensive experience or an advanced degree, you could certainly go to your second page, but try to fill at least 3/4 of that second page. If you go to the second page and you have less than 3/4, either expand upon your experiences, add some volunteer work or something like that, or condense it a little bit on that first page to get it back down to 1 page. But you just don't want to leave like halfway through that second page. Times New Roman, Calibri, Arial, those types of font. You're not going to go into any kind of fancy fonts. 12-point, make it easy for us and as well as computers to read it. And single-spaced, black ink only. I skipped one. Don't use a template. So generally speaking, we say don't use a template because it's a little bit too hard to make revisions on that and add, since you're going to be constantly updating it. If you are really technologically savvy, you understand Word very well, and you can work with Word on making your own template or something like that, feel free to do that. But just for generally speaking, we think it's a little bit easier for most people if you just do it on your own and you don't use a template. So that fourth bullet point, keep a master resume. This is probably one of the most important pieces. So every experience that you have, volunteer work, curricular, co-curricular, work experience, relevant experience, whatever you're going to use, put all of that on one master resume. So that one might go for several pages. And then as you go and apply to different jobs and positions, then you're going to tailor your resume to each one. So you're going to pick things out of that master resume to put into the resume for that position. So if there's 5 different jobs that you're applying to, every single of those resumes are going to look a little bit different because you are tailoring it to that job that you're applying for. Don't add a picture, word art, or any kind of links unless it's to a portfolio of some kind or your LinkedIn page, assuming that your LinkedIn page is up and running and looks good. Consistency is key. Choose one way of showcasing your experience throughout the resume. The other thing is with consistency is make sure that anything that you bullet, italicize, bold, or underline across your resume, make sure that those same things in each kind of section. So if you have 5 different experiences or 3 different, work experiences, make sure that the same things are bolded, capitalized, whatever, underlined and such. The same thing goes for dates, anything on the margins, make sure everything lines up. Again, update it often, update it thoroughly. We tend to kind of forget some of our projects and experiences. So make sure if you update it as you're doing it, it will make it easier down the line, and you won't have to kind of think about, all right, what did I do in that job? Obviously, get your resume checked. Use us in career services, use your resources, mentors, family, whoever you trust to take a look at your resume. I've had people come to me with resumes for review, and they've put an extra S in Massachusetts, or they left out this or that. So there's little typos that happen. So just like with anything, papers and everything else, just get it checked out by whoever you trust or career services. All right, let's do some resume nitty-gritty details. So first off, you're going to include the URL to your LinkedIn profile on your resume, assuming that your LinkedIn profile is ready to be seen by employers. Make sure it's ready and that you're proud of it before you put it on your resume. On our website in the career toolbox, you're going to see a document called Wordsmithing Your Resume. I highly recommend you take a look at that. It will give you a list of strong action verbs that you can use for the beginning of every one of your bullet points. So for example, instead of saying perhaps, worked on this project, you could say collaborated or facilitated or something developed or whatever. So there's tons of different action verbs that you could use that will be more descriptive and actually kind of tell people what you did. It'll make your resume sound better too. So you're not going to copy and paste bullet points between different experiences. So even if you had 2 experiences or more that are relatively similar in what you did for those positions, you're not just going to copy and paste. You're going to want to rewrite those every time. That's going to show that you care and that you took the time to write them out versus just copy and pasting. So experiences should be in reverse chronological order with the exception of your positions you're currently in. You're not going to write any demographic information on your resume. In most places that's illegal and they can't even ask you that during an interview. So you're not going to put that on a resume. The only thing that I will, on the caveat to that I suppose I'll say, is that if you want to include pronouns on your resume, you certainly can if that's your choice. My recommendation there would be to just make sure you know the industry, whether or not a declaration of pronouns is going to be well received by that industry in an interview or resume setting. We don't want you to be discriminated against in any way, and so we just think about the industry and the employer to make sure that that's how that's going to go over with them. It also brings the point of making sure that you think about a company that you want to work for a company that discriminates against you or wouldn't want you to write your pronouns on a resume. So just think about all of that in your decision if you want to include those. When I have seen them, they have typically been up somewhere near the name. You'll see that on the next page actually. Again, be truthful, don't exaggerate and don't fabricate. Even if the job is something similar, like you were a cashier or a waitress, something that people typically know what that job entails, you're still going to want to try to wordsmith it and make it sound a little bit more fancy, if you will, but certainly don't exaggerate or make up anything. All right, here's an example resume for you to take a look at. The first thing I want you to do is just kind of blur your eyes, and you're going to be looking kind of the ratio between the blank space and then the black written space. So you're just going to kind of, if there's too much blank space, then that's going to kind of show that you might not be overly qualified, or just doesn't look very positive upon you. If there's too much writing, then it's going to be kind of intimidating for people to read, and they may kind of gloss over things that are really important to you. So just make sure that the ratio of blank space to written space is kind of, it's pleasing to the eye, and make sure it looks good, okay? And it's relatively even. So the big things that I want to point out from this one, as you can see at the top, Taylor included his pronouns. He does include his actual physical address, street address. You don't have to do that. You could just say Holyoke, Mass without the zip code. That's fine. He's using his UMass email. We do tend to recommend you use an outside email, a Gmail or whatever you have, just especially after you graduate. We also highly recommend you add cell before the phone number, because employers are in fact texting, so they want to make sure they know they can actually text that number. So as you can see, you're going to start off with education. Notice how all of the education, relevant experience, other experience, and skills are all uppercase, bolded, and underlined. That's what I'm talking about with that kind of stylistic consistency, making sure all that looks the same thing for the locations of the positions and whatnot. And then all the dates on the right hand side, all of those are even as well. So that's what we're kind of talking about when it comes to those stylistic consistency type pieces. Make sure those look good and make sure there's no typos. So let's talk about cover letters. The first piece I want you to think about is whether or not you need one. There are some industries such as engineering and some computer science positions where they don't require a cover letter. So make sure you check the job listing, check with your career center if there's nothing listed on that job listing about a cover letter, to make sure that you actually do need one. If you do need one, it shouldn't be more than 1 page. Okay, anything more than that becomes an essay. It becomes kind of intimidating for interviewers or recruiters to read. So just keep it to 1 page. Keep it as concise as you can. So in the past, there was a need to include the address of who you were sending it to and the date at the top. This doesn't have to happen anymore. However, it should match the header on your resume. So if you recall from the previous slide, it said Taylor transfer, and then it had his, some information like linked. I think there's LinkedIn, cell phone, and address. That header should match the header on your cover letter. So you can literally just copy paste it right into your cover letter. Again, keeps it consistent and makes it easy for people to know, and it just looks really nice when you have all of your paperwork has the same header at the top. So be confident in your abilities and experiences. It's okay to boast in your cover letter, and we kind of recommend you do a little bit. But again, it's also like, think about the little stories that you have, or things that really showcase your qualifications, and make sure that gets into this cover letter, especially if those qualifications or experiences help meet the minimum qualifications or required or recommended qualifications, or preferred ones rather, for the job you're going into. Resumes tell employers your qualifications, cover letters show them. So again, thinking about showing what you can do, not just telling them. We also highly recommend that you have multiple eyes look at your cover letters before you send them out. So you can have mentors, your career center, family, whoever you have in your life that you want to have them take a look at it. We highly recommend that, just because as we're looking at it over and over, we miss the little typos or things that we should change. Cover letters tend to be the hardest part of an application, but once you've done one, they do get easier. These are another thing that you're going to be tailoring to every single job in a position you go for. So again, if you have 5 different jobs, you should have 5 different resumes and 5 different cover letters. They can be kind of similar. You can use kind of the same format, but generally speaking, you're going to want to tailor it to make sure that you're really covering the qualifications, the minimum and preferred qualifications for each position. One way to do that is to utilize mission statements and values of the institution that you're applying to within your cover letter, probably that first or last paragraph, especially considering that those, obviously, a mission and value statements are very important to that institution or company. So you're going to want to show that you did your research. And then you're also going to want to use key terms in that job description. So as you look at that listing, you're going to probably see terms that are repeated over and over again. Those are terms that are probably very important to that job in that institution or company. So you want to try and incorporate those somehow into your cover letter. Again, showing that you did your due diligence and you did your research into the company and into the job, and that you are well prepared. So let's talk about some networking guidance here for you, and then we're going to go into LinkedIn. So 2 golden rules when it comes to networking. First, you're never going to openly ask for an interview. Instead, you're going to ask questions to see if the company is a good fit for you. So again, you're not going to go into whether it's a career fair, whether it's somebody that you know from something else or third party, whatever. You're never just going to say, hey, can I get an interview? That's a no-no within the networking and business world. You're also never going to ask for a job. So instead you're going to let people know you're in the market for a position and politely ask if they could let you know about potential opportunities. They'll make the connection that you want a job pretty quickly. Another thing we recommend is that you have an elevator pitch or a 30-second introduction to who you are, what you've done, and what you want to do. So if you haven't heard about an elevator pitch before, the basic premise is that think about if whatever company you really want to work for, let's say you went to that company and you got into the elevator and either the CEO or some person that you need to impress is in that, it's just you and that person in that elevator, and you have about 30 to 45 seconds to kind of impress that person and kind of get some attention from them. What would you want to be saying during that time? Are you just going to stand there, or you're going to kind of talk about, again, who you are, what you've done, what you want to do, maybe how you can help that company, something like that. Make sure you practice it. Make sure you evolve it over time as you get more experience in your careers, things like that. This next one, research and network with any company you're interested in, even if they're not hiring. That's super important. Researching companies and making sure that you really want to work for a company, or it's going to be a good fit for you. Things like that, super important. We can't stress that enough. Not to mention, when you've done that research, when you get to the interview, you know that that's the right place for you, and you're going to come off stronger in an interview. So you can also conduct informational interviews to learn more about the company and to see if you actually want to work there. So if you connect with somebody, let's say on LinkedIn, like we'll talk about in a little bit, and you can conduct an informational interview, which right now might be a virtual interview, which is fine. You can see if you want to work there, see if the environment is right, see if the type of supervision you're going to get works for you. Whatever is important to you, you can certainly ask those questions during that informational interview. When you're done, make sure you send a thank you note afterwards. An email is okay. It might be preferred right now with the coronavirus, but once this is kind of over, you could certainly do a handwritten thank you note, and something like that is always more appreciated than an email. Again, right now with the state of the world, we definitely recommend you can send an email, but once this kind of is over, when a written thank you note is always preferable. So one last resource here, you can use the UMass Alumni Advisor Network. Even if you haven't officially graduated yet, you can still use this resource. They can help you connect with employers, mentors, or gain other career advice. So you can just go right on to the US Alumni website, or just search for UMass Alumni Advisor Network, and they can put you in contact with somebody. All right, so why do you need a LinkedIn? So LinkedIn is the #1 source, or social professional networks are the #1 source of quality hires, followed by the internet job boards and employee referrals. LinkedIn is also used by 94% of recruiters to vet candidates. It is by far the most popular tool for building and maintaining networks, and in this virtual world, it's going to be used a lot more. So LinkedIn is meant to be an extended resume. So in a resume, like you're limited by, you have to be on a page or maybe 2 pages, depending on your experience level and your education. With LinkedIn, you can really expand upon that, and you can really talk about all the things that you've done within an experience. You can also, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, I think, but you can also add part of your portfolio. So if you've done presentations, if you have a vlog and you want to talk about some vlog, add the link to your vlog. If you have some other piece that you'd like to add to make it more of a portfolio, you can certainly do that. And you're just going to add. There's an add media option within each experience. So if you go into each of your experiences. I think there's like a blue pencil. You're going to click on that and then scroll to the bottom to the add media. You should have the link for your LinkedIn, your URL that we're going to talk about in a little bit on your resume and your business card, so people can look it up easily. Just a little piece of advice: LinkedIn Premium isn't worth the price, so we don't recommend that you buy it unless it's you're going to be using it a lot or it's part of your job or something like that. All right, let's talk about some LinkedIn basics. So your name, photo, and headline will be the first thing people to see, so make sure your photo looks good and your headline is catchy. Your photo should be professional, approachable, and friendly. If you can use a high-res camera to take it, that's great, but definitely don't do a selfie. You can certainly get it professionally done if you want, or you can rent a DSLR camera from the UMass Amherst Digital Media Lab that's in the library. You can take it out, take that picture, and then return it. It's all free. Your headline should represent who and what you are and what you're looking for. It should be quick, catchy, and unique to you. If you're sitting here saying, how on earth do I create a headline that is quick, catchy, and unique to me, you can go online on Google or whatever search engine you want and just kind of search LinkedIn headlines, and there are plenty of resources and examples to kind of help you create your own. You can set your geographic location to the largest and closest city and town. So if you're in this area around UMass Amherst, then you're going to be Springfield, Mass. Your summary is one of the most read sections of your profile. So think of it as an introductory business card that tells people who you are, what sets you apart, and what you're looking to get from the viewer. Not everyone who is on LinkedIn is trying to get a job. Some are just trying to network. Some people are trying to, recruit people, things like that. So make sure in your summary you tell the viewers and the readers what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to get a job, or if you're just trying to network with people in your industry to collaborate on projects or whatever you're looking to do. Again, I mentioned this in the previous slide, but upload your current resume, photos, documents, presentations, or other media to create a portfolio. That's much more visually pleasing as you're going through it than just like lists upon lists of experiences. So again, if that's blog links, if that's PowerPoint presentations that you've done, if there's other videos or anything like that, or documents that can showcase your skills, you can certainly add all of that to LinkedIn. So I mentioned earlier about changing your URL. So generally speaking, when you first create your LinkedIn profile, this is what it's going to look like. Sam-M-35, whatever. If you meet somebody in a networking event, you're not going to be able to remember this, and they're not going to remember it either. So that's why we say you should change it. So if you're in your profile, you're going to do edit public profile in URL, personalize, or edit the URL, personalize it for yourself, and then you can kind of come up with, so this one we use Sam the Minuteman, and now he's Sam-Minuteman. Again, there's whatever option you want to do. Here's a couple other suggestions. Whatever you can kind of come up with that works for you and that you're going to remember, go for it. And then you're going to put that. This is the URL. Once you've finished with it, this is what will go on your resume, cover letter heading as well, and then your business cards. So one of the main functions of LinkedIn obviously is networking. So as you go through your career and you meet people, maybe you go to career fairs or something like that, and you're meeting people, you're going to want to connect back to LinkedIn. So whenever you get business cards, you want to bring that business card back home and connect with that person on LinkedIn. However, whenever you're just meeting someone, or you're trying to connect with someone that you don't know or maybe haven't seen in a while on LinkedIn, we do recommend that you add a little note after you're kind of trying to connect with them. So as it says here, this is directly from LinkedIn, they're more likely to accept invitations that include a personal note. So, for example, something simple like this: "Hi, my name is Sam Minuteman. I'm a Bachelor of Science in Communication. I saw that you do some amazing work in this field, and I'm looking into a similar trajectory of work upon graduation. Would you be willing to connect with me? Thank you and take care." It doesn't have to be fancy. Something like that just it makes it a little less awkward and weird for just some random person to be trying to connect with you. So that's why we recommend that. Another cool function of LinkedIn is that you can network through companies. So at the very top of your page, there's a search bar. You literally can put in Google like I did. You can follow that to just kind of see what's going on at Google, or you can also you can try and find people that work for Google that went to UMass, or maybe were linked to other past experiences that you've had. You can certainly reach out to those people, or former alumni, rather, and ask questions about the company or how to be a successful candidate. That always looks really positive upon you. So feel free to do that. Again, this is when we recommend that from that previous slide, definitely send a note with what you're trying to do, so they're not just getting some random connection request from someone they don't know. All right, a cool function of LinkedIn is that you can find UMass Amherst alumni and connect with them. So I kind of mentioned it on previous slides. So this is how you're going to do that. In that top search bar, you're going to search for UMass Amherst. On the left, you're going to click on, once you've done that, you're going to click See Alumni, and then it'll get you a page that looks something similar to this. You will be able to see, so if you can see the arrows, again, there'll be probably at least 175,000 alumni at this point, where they live, where they work, what they studied, what they do, all these. If you see this next button right here, there's a whole bunch of different types of search parameters that you can use. You can change the years, anything like that. So once you've done that, then you can kind of find people that you might want to try and connect with, and again, send out that note being like, "Hey, let's connect and let's chat." If you are new to LinkedIn, you may struggle a little bit initially with trying to connect with people, and that's just because you need to expand your network. So if you have friends or mentors or whoever that are on LinkedIn that have significant networks, by connecting with them, then you'll be able to get more connections. So don't give up if you try and this is your first time using LinkedIn, you get on and you're like, I can't connect with anybody. You really just need to find like one mentor to connect with, and that will kind of open up your opportunities for networking. All right, so I wanted to mention Handshake to you all. So this is UMass Amherst online career platform for all students. So you all are able to get on this already if you didn't know about it. There's the URL for it. Your net ID and password is going to get you in there. You can schedule career advising appointments with us to have you and your resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, personal statements, things like that reviewed. When we have live career fairs or employer recruiting on campus, and then also right now we're having more like virtual career type events happening. All of those links and information, all that's on Handshake. There's also off-campus internship and job opportunities, both locally and globally. There are entry-level and experienced positions. There are certainly more entry-level than experienced positions, but if you go on there and you find a company that you're like, hey, this sounds perfect for me and what I want to do, then you can just you can email a recruiter and kind of see if there's maybe some more opportunities there. So we'll talk about interviews and then we'll be done. So my biggest point of advice that I can give you is to do research. So not only the company that you want to work for, that you're going to go interview with, but also your interviewers. I'm not saying kind of be creepy about your research into the interviewers, but like, what are their, how long have they worked for the company? What kind of projects have they worked on? Do you have any connections on LinkedIn with them? Things like that. Make sure again that LinkedIn profile or other online profiles that you list on your resume, make sure they are they're in good shape, that you're proud of them, and that you want the recruiters and the interviewers to see them. So you're going to search for interview questions online in your field and then practice your answers. So, for example, these online resources, big interview, and then that's in the middle, that those two, this particular one right here, this right here, this is a screenshot of what big interview looks like, so you all can see. So there are a couple options. You can just look at videos of someone answering kind of hard questions or kind of giving you tips on how to answer those questions. But you could also, as this individual is doing, record himself answering those questions with like a virtual person that's not live, it's pre-recorded, but it allows you to kind of see, like, am I smiling enough? How does my face look? How do things sound as I'm listening to myself? So make sure that you play those things back to make sure it's coming across appropriately. And then Candid Career is another place where you can get some information and about actual these different careers, some interview questions and things like that. We highly also recommend that you prepare your interview in attire and shoes. We generally recommend you have 2 interview outfits, even if it's just 2 different shirts. We know that blazers and suits can be kind of expensive, so if you have 2 different shirts, that helps. So just think about if you have 2 different interviews, you don't want to be wearing the exact same outfit to both interviews. That's the kind of the thought process there. So a lot of writing on this slide, so I apologize for that. But so before an interview, again, you're going to be dressing professionally, practice smiling and maintaining eye contact. I know that's kind of, that seems super simple, but a lot of times people kind of forget to smile during an interview. And that can really kind of put everyone, including the interviewers, at ease when people just kind of smile and relax. Again, read that job description again, have something that you're going to talk about. Have some questions if you can write them down about, especially, and bring kind of a little notebook with you about the company or position. If you come up with more questions during the interview, you can certainly write that down as well. You're arriving at least 15 minutes early to any interview with extra resumes in hand. You do not want to be late to an interview. I've done interviews with people who have been late, and it really does not reflect very positively upon them. Silence your cell phone, so whatever that means to you, if it's turning it off, turning on airplane mode, whatever it is, but make sure it's off. You do not want that ringing during the middle of your interview. Again, that will not reflect well on you. So during the interview, be aware of your body language. Make sure you're not slouching in the chair. Again, make sure you're sitting up tall and you're looking engaged. Since you have that notebook, you can take notes, but try not to use it as a crutch. Again, write down any follow-up questions you might have. Maintain eye contact with the interviewers, especially if you have like a panel and there's a bunch of people, so they're each asking a question. Make sure that whoever's asking the question that you're kind of maintaining eye contact with that person. Again, practicing active listening and nodding with sounds of affirmation. Again, just keeps you present in that interview. Keeping your answers to questions concise and efficient, depending on I don't want to give you a time frame because, again, every interview is different, every question is different. But I mean, if you can try to keep it, like 2 to 3 minutes for an answer, I think that's a pretty good idea. For behavioral questions or like situational questions, like for example, tell me about a time that you had a difficult customer and how did you deal with that? Things like that. You're going to want to use the STAR method. So it's situation, task, action, and result. And then there's plenty of resources online at our website about that. But if you follow those 4 things, and again, I would recommend researching that on your own just to kind of figure out what that is and what it looks like. You can if you follow that, you can kind of guarantee you're going to answer the question in all parts of a situational question. If you need to ask for clarification, do so. You're not going to want to try and make up an answer just because you didn't understand it. So real quickly, just wanted to talk about offer negotiation. Generally speaking, try not to take the first offer that falls into your lap. When you do get an offer, always request at least 48 hours to consider the offer. During that time, you're going to want to do some research, some reconnaissance on what other similar positions make to make sure that you're getting a comparable and fair amount. Glassdoor and Salary are two examples of websites that you can use to kind of figure out what the offer or what the salary benefits, things like that, if that matches what others in the industry are getting. Again, clarify the benefits and have a firm understanding of the offer, salary, and benefits. Make sure if you have questions, make sure you're asking those questions. If you can, don't be afraid to negotiate. If you have a union job or like a state job or a government job, it's highly unlikely that you'll be able to negotiate. So make sure you can research that job and that company or an institution to make sure that you actually can. Again, there are resources on our website, and there are plenty of resources online about how to negotiate for your salary. If you have two offers or multiple offers at the same time, you might be able to use the other as leverage. Again, just kind of play that. There's more resources online about that on our website. Just be careful and make sure it's, don't just do it to do it, but make sure there's a reason for it. At the end of the day, though, you are going to just be sure that you feel good about whatever choice you make, and make sure it's a company that you do in fact want to work for, and that's a good fit for you. I like ending with this slide because I think we often tend to think of our career path as like a ladder where you have, again, college, first job, you get a promotion, you get closer, you get your dream job, and then you retire. But in reality, it's more like the lower right, where you get a job after high school, maybe you get a degree, maybe you don't finish college, maybe then you go back and you finish it, then maybe you go get a grad degree, you change jobs, whatever. Like that is more what life is really like. So if you were thinking that this one down here is more like you, that's okay, because that's more like everybody else. This really isn't reality at all. All right, so that's the end of this presentation. Thank you for paying attention and for checking out this presentation. If you have any questions or any follow-up questions, or if you want to have a resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, or any kind of other document reviewed, please reach out. Again, obviously, right now we're not at 511 Goodell, but that's typically where we are. You can certainly send an email to careerservices@umass.edu. All those resources that I've mentioned throughout this presentation are at the UMass, our career website, which is umass.edu/careers. And you're going to be looking for the career toolkit. Again, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. We hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.